Welcome to our program, Coach-to-Coach. Today's guest is Patrick Ache. Patrick has been a persuader all his working life, whether as a commercial lawyer, marketing and sales consultant, or now as a performance coach. He loves creating long-term value for his clients by helping them to be the most powerful versions of themselves, and from there, helping them craft and then execute holistic strategies to achieve their goals. Patrick and I recently met through Jamie Smart's Clarity Coach Tribe. Thanks for joining us today, Patrick. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you, Greg, for the honor of this invite.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So the way I like to kick these things off is to ask you what first sparked your interest in coaching?
Sure, Greg, that's a great question. I had no clue what coaching was about. I
Mm,
just knew that after several years as a commercial lawyer, I just didn't feel like I was having the impact I was put here to have. It felt, it felt like I wasn't really addressing root issues. As a commercial lawyer, you're usually either coming in at the beginning to draft contracts
mm,
or coming in at the end to litigate, or somewhere in the middle sometimes to advise here and there. But in terms of really looking to the root of the issues of why many of those fires were starting, that wasn't really what we did. In fact, I remember one of my former bosses, a partner at a law firm I worked at, saying, it's not as lucrative to be preventative. It's not as lucrative to be preventative. And that didn't just sit well with me. However, really, I got to coaching, in a very roundabout way. I firstly thought, you know what? I know I love business. I enjoy reading a bit. I enjoy, that whole everything about business. So let
mm,
me go to business school. I'm already a commercial lawyer. It'll maybe make me a better business lawyer, right? Commercial lawyer. And and during that program, I was exposed to coaching for the first time because as the course was going, um, you have different blocks, different modules.
yeah.
There'd be a coaching module just accompanying all the different blocks. So it was meant to integrate what you were learning into your life plan.
Mm,
And it wasn't even individual coaching, it was group coaching, but something about it just resonated with me. And it's for me, it was maybe more helpful than anything else. I
mm,
was, I was, I was consuming or doing or reading about, whether it's financial accounting, management accounting, all of that. So very naturally, I shifted my focus to coaching. And as I told you, I had been feeling like this wasn't really the space for me.
mm,
This wasn't the impact I was meant to have. So, almost immediately, upon graduation, I actually hung out my shingle as a coach. I did interview coaches, in the lead up to it, just to find out what it takes to be successful, etc.
yeah.
The advice, maybe find a coach as well so that they can coach me on this coaching business. Um, and yeah, I hung up my shingle as a coach. Um, within 1 month of finishing the business program.
Mm,
I also resigned um, within a day of finishing that program as well.
yeah.
And I've been doing that ever since in different forms and different fashions since then. It's been 2016. Yeah.
Mm, I love it. I think what I love about your story the most is it's a model for following your heart. You mentioned in a couple different ways what you're meant to be doing, having an impact in the world. Um, you know, my words, not yours. Following your plan for what you're meant put here to do, kind of thing. So I love that that's what's guided you into coaching. Um, and I'd imagine for your clients, your own story is a great model for them on finding and following their own path. So
Mhm.
I'm really curious about you mentioned hanging up your shingle. Like, tell me about a little bit about your practice, who you're working with, in terms of types of clients or niches, that kind of thing, and how you're working. Like, what kind of coaching is it that you do with people?
Sure. Well, in terms of following my passion, Greg, I think I've always been passionate about promoting the growth of small and medium-sized businesses.
Mm,
So even my thesis at when I was doing my business program was around entrepreneurial success factors
mm,
for SMME owners in Southern Africa. So quite organically, I started coaching that. But it was more of a business consultant initially, if I'm being honest with myself,
yeah.
Greg. All that knowledge from the course and all of that, and maybe being a bit of an ideator myself, I generally have good ideas, but that wasn't really the most impactful part of my work. And I realized that as I did it for a while, that I wasn't really seemingly helping people because I think, as we were saying, most people kind of know what it is they're meant to do, and
Mm,
and often how they're meant to do it, or they can easily figure it out. Um, what I found was that even for me, what tended to get in the way, and by that time I had a lot of business practical tools that I had mastered, sales, marketing, all that, was more my mindset around these things.
mm,
And and as I said, the discovery of truly transformative coaching and that approach came in that moment of like, what I'm doing is not working, man. In one of those dark nights of the soul where I was just questioning all of this. And and that was so helpful for me in terms of unlocking what was in the way for me in my business. And yeah, that my approach is now much more coaching and much more transformative. And who do I focus on? Tends to be business owners of and generally Christian business owners, Greg.
mm,
I think the way I relate to it is through my own faith. I relate to the three principles through my own faith,
mm,
and it's quite natural and easy for me to connect with fellow Christian business leaders around the issue around that. So yeah, that's I wouldn't say it's emerged organically as a niche, but I
yeah.
help everyone. I have various other clients who are not Christian,
Yeah.
but this seems to be the you know that niche,
Yeah.
but I think, Greg, I would say to anyone that serve the people that you can. And if
Mm,
it emerges that there's a specific group of people that you seem to work best with, you can maybe focus on that
yeah.
because that works. But don't say no to helping anyone just because to helping people because your niche is is what it is. So that's what
Yeah.
I would say on
Yeah.
that front, Greg. I don't know
Absolutely.
what your thoughts. Yeah. Mm,
Yeah. Well, I love what you're pointing to. I mean, I think, from my experience on some of the programs I've been on and other coaches that I've interacted with, I've seen people often get hung up on this whole niche idea. Like it's almost a prison for them. Like they lock themselves into. Meanwhile, it's more of a tool to help guide your sales and marketing so that that your messaging, is going to the you know, what they would refer to as the avatar for that niche or whatever, and it's not meant to limit you so that you can only help people in that niche. No, the power of the
mm.
niche, thinking about it as a niche is more than just targeting your messaging. But I mean, the way I approach my own business as well is uh, I have a portfolio of niches. I'm not locked into any one particular group, and I'm
Mm.
um, kind of going with the flow, I guess is the way I would put it. Like uh, I did a program a couple of years ago called Get Shit Done because that was a lot of people were telling me that was kind of my superpower, my ability just to get stuff done. And one of my uh, um, things in there is uh, I said I'm only married to my wife. That was kind of the catchphrase, which meant just because I decide to work on a niche today doesn't mean I'm locked into that for forever. Like I can change my mind tomorrow. I can change my mind again next week. A new opportunity presents itself that I find interesting or that's lighting me up. Well, I can go in that direction. Like as long as it's everything's up for changing, other than my wife. That was kind of the the crux of that. Yeah,
Powerful.
yeah. And I love your connection. My parents were Salvation Army ministers for 30 something years, and this work, this coaching work, has gotten me much more connected with my own spiritual side, spiritual nature, and given me a much deeper appreciation for the work that they did all those years. A lot of it was spent in the part of the Salvation Army called community mental health. Um, and here I am all these years
Hmm.
later, basically working in mental health myself. So it's funny
Yeah,
how things
the
unfold.
apple doesn't fall from the tree, does it? Right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, the other thing that occurred to me was in your story there, kind of the power of insight. You've had some insights along the way that seems to have guided you on your path, and I just love that. I often have to explain to people. They think coaching is the advice business, telling people what to do, and I often have to point out that I'm actually in the insight business. I'm not in the advice business. Um, so I really resonate with your message. I'm curious if you can share some examples. You mentioned coaching you got yourself. So whether a little story about
Hmm.
that or a big breakthrough that a client had or something along those lines that really
Hmm.
illustrate for people the power of transformational coaching.
Sure. I think for me, the story that comes to mind for me is sort of realizing that um, at one point I realized that it was an insight I got suddenly that everything, including business, is a reflection of who we think we are and our path to wellness and well-being. So if it was I don't know how it came about that I was being coached through a group conversation on a Jamie Smart group coaching
Mm,
call, and it just struck me as he was speaking, as the guy Jamie was coaching was speaking about making more money, how limiting beliefs can come in. And for me, I realized in that moment that at some point I'd taken making proposals as almost as seeking a validation,
mm,
you know, and I'd been rigid on my pricing, on my pricing,
yeah.
because it was like, nah, I'm worth it, you
Mm,
know. And meanwhile, it had nothing to do with that. It was something about what would be delightful for you and something that you'd be delighted to pay for the results that
mm,
they want to achieve. But the way I was being in those moments was pick me, or getting angry that they were not picking me, and insisting and trying to finesse. And I saw that and I was like, whoa. And the reason why is, I mean, the proxy for that is trying to win the approval of my
mm,
father. And I saw it in that
mm,
moment. And it was so powerful for me. I broke down in tears. And I think similarly, I've been able to, through having been taken there myself, right? You can only take people where you yourself have been able to go,
yeah.
in the coaching space, is help many of my SMME business owners, Christian and otherwise, to see what's in the way of them making money.
Mm,
Whether it's one client who has felt that, when I speaking to her, just unpacking how, getting things wrong, being seen to do things in the wrong way usually led to her being deprived of love and affection, and therefore a limiting belief there for her in asking for money, in making proposals was, if what if I get it wrong? What if they don't like it? What if because the automatic subconscious thing that she was seeing was, oh, they might, and this is this is what she told me in the sacred sort of space of coaching, that what would happen is when her father would do that, when
Mm,
her father wouldn't like what she was doing, he would literally not only deprive her of, say, a pocket money, but he wouldn't speak to her at all.
mm,
You know, he would turn his face against her in a way.
yeah,
And how I helped her process it was, he was just doing the best he can. He was trying to help you, but from a place of clumsiness, like we're all human. We're all in many ways clumsy, right?
yeah,
And and how and and helping her turn that around, already come up with statements that she saw was true. That, what, regardless of whether people see me as, I am worthy,
mm,
and how do and we did that whole exercise, and um yeah, she's gotten out of a well, you could call it abusive, but unhappy relationship.
mm,
She's made more proposals, um, made so yeah, that's one example.
yeah, yeah.
That's one example.
I
Well,
love
two
it.
examples maybe. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
love you pointing to the concept of looking at what's getting in the way. I mean, often I think people are looking for additive approaches, things they need to do, and often the root of their problems is what's getting in the way, not having to do something. It's having an insight around the things that you just described. And it's so interesting to me how, parent-child relationships, so like things that are established at a very early age in our lives, have this kind of way of carrying forward into our adulthood. And uh, and when you do the work with a coach, and you can see what's at play, and as soon as you see it, it starts unraveling, because you're no longer looking at or organizing and relating to that situation as a kid, as a whatever age it was when these things happened. You can now look at it with your adult experience in mind, and security, I guess, and reorganize and relate to it in a new way, and then everything changes. So I love that. I was poking around the internet, as I do, to learn a little bit about you before we got on the call, and I saw two things I'm curious about. One is your program on YouTube, and the other one is on your Facebook page. You mentioned a book, so I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about those two things, if they're things that you're still pursuing, or looking to share with people.
Hmm. No, absolutely. On my YouTube channel, which I've recently relaunched, I think my focus is on speaking to, firstly, interviewing others who are in the similar space, yourself included,
Mm,
on how to unlock your performance. I have a particular passion for the power of joy, finding joy in the things that align with who you are and doing that, including to make more money, including to be a better leader. So the book is actually aligned with that, and it's about letting go and letting joy, um, and letting go of the things that may have kept us safe, but are now holding us back from pursuing and being the people that create the outcomes that we want. And and yeah, they're both in process, and I'm keen on getting people to share their stories, or be, if they'd be open to it, being demo coached on my being coached rather, on live calls that are then shared, so that others can benefit from those sessions. If they're battling with anything, yeah. So that's that on those two.
yeah. I
Yeah,
like the title. I relate. My book is called it's on the shoulder. Sorry, Unleash Your Potential, which is probably another way of saying unlocking performance.
I love it.
So it's I love the idea that unleashing or unlocking, it presupposes that it's already there, right? You just gotta kind of let it out. Um,
Mm.
so
Uh, whose book was it? You Already Rich. Remember the golden haired self-help guru
yeah,
passed recently, not too long ago. I forget his name.
I don't know if it's the same guy. I'm reading a book right now called Born Rich by Bob Proctor. I don't know if
It's
that's
him. Sorry, sorry.
yeah,
Yes, that's him.
yeah,
That's him. That's him.
yeah,
That's him.
yeah,
That's a book, and that's a book.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
a fascinating book. I mean, for an older book, I don't know about your experience with it, but my there's a lot of stuff in there I wasn't expecting when I just made a mental picture based on the title. It's a much more spiritual book than I would have thought, which I quite enjoyed.
It's beautiful. Mm.
Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
if there's one thing you'd want people to know or to get from this conversation, what would that one thing be?
Hmm. I've been thinking about that. I think. Hmm. I think the summary of it was that I'll put it. The summary is joy is usually just one thought away.
Mm,
I think joy is usually one thought away, and it's not to say you need to judge any negative feeling in any area where you feel like you're not performing, but to know that even that negative feeling is there for a good reason. It's there to protect. So when you see that, even the emotion of negativity, you can feel joy towards. And when you do that, I mean, yeah. So yeah, one thought away about everything, particularly who you are. So
yeah,
that's
I
my
love it.
little.
It's interesting because I've often used the word happiness, and I'm quite liking joy instead of happiness. Like it feels like um, an even deeper um, expression of happiness. Like another taking happiness to another level. Uh, Joy. Um, you know, it's funny because one of my goals for 2026 is I want to become a connoisseur of question one of Jamie's 5 question model. Question one is what do they want? So helping people discover what it is they want. And in those conversations, in my experience, often starts with a whole bunch of stuff, and and whether it's through the exploration of what they want or through working with me, um, often what people end up wanting is more joy, the experience of living in the feeling of joy, regardless of whatever the circumstances in their life are. You mentioned before we got on the book, The Ultimate Coach, which is kind of the beginning of the being movement. How are you being in the world, right? And it's people often think of a whole bunch of stuff has to happen, then I can feel joy. Like if I win the lottery or I have a good time at an event or my kids do well in school, then I can feel joy versus just being joy and then letting the life unfold from that space. Um, I've had this image recently of the old putting the cart before the horse image, and having the horse here and the cart in front of it, and that's the way most people approach it. That a whole bunch of stuff has to happen in order to have the joy. And it's like no, it's the other way around. Just you. I think our natural state is to be joyful when nothing's getting in the way.
Great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, I love it. If people are interested in learning more about you or unlocking their performance, how can they find you and get in touch with you?
Through my social media pages on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, also Facebook. So just Google my name, Patrick Ache, and yeah, that's probably the best way. Um,
Cool. Well, we're recording this a few days before Christmas, so I'll end by wishing you a very Merry Christmas, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today.
Greg, it's been an honor. Thank you for making time. and inviting me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll see you again soon.
Mm. See you again soon, Brett.
Bye bye.
Cheers.